Dan Illman, Matt Bernier taking a look at the race number 8 on the Kentucky Derby undercard. It's the Grade 1 Churchill Downs Stakes, going 7 furlongs for some salty older sprinters. Let's take a peek at this field. The number 8 Matoli, 7-2 on the morning line, Matt. All he's done is win his last 5 races, 4 of them in triple-digit buyer fashion. Many folks believe that this is one of the better sprinters in the world. Now, if you peel back the onion a little bit, maybe you could find some sort of chinks in the armor. Matoli, if you look at the Timeform US pace figures for most of his races, they're color-coded blue, which means he's had an easy time of it on the lead. And this time around, he's got to go against 7 furlongs against some legitimate gas. How do you rate this horse?
Well, I mean, the talent is undeniable, but what you laid out is accurate. He's never gone this far, and he's never had to deal with pace that he's likely to see here in this race on Saturday. The other thing I think that needs to be factored in, I would be absolutely floored if you got anything close to 7-2 on this horse. I know there's other talented runners, but based on what he's done, and he just handled a really nice horse in Whitmore, who is one of the choices in this race, I think you're looking at 6-5 or 7-5. And for those reasons, the way you laid it out, with the fact that he's going to need to go faster than he ever has, an extra furlong, to me, that short a price, I wouldn't take him. If you got 7-2, I'd run to the window now.
Don't you think he had the advantages over Whitmore last time out over that sealed, sloppy track? It was a short field at Oaklawn without any sort of speed whatsoever, and Whitmore had to be the one to do the dirty work, chasing Matoli, lest Matoli just walk on an easy lead. This time around, someone else will do the dirty work. I'm not even sure if Matoli is fast enough to make the lead from Promises Fulfilled, who's a very quick one in his own right.
That's the thing. There's a number of horses in here that have legitimate early foot in here, and Matoli, perhaps he is fast enough to make the front, but he's going to have to work a heck of a lot harder than he really ever has in his career if he's going to do that, or he's going to need to prove that he can sit and be as comfortable and as effective off of a target.
Do you think he can sit and finish?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, the bigger question for me is the 7/8 of a mile, because some of these horses, this is their bread and butter, 7/8. Is he going to be one of those horses that is just bang up at 6 furlongs, and then when you get him out a little bit longer, is that when you start to see a little bit of a potential fly in the ointment, or is it a situation where he is just that good and he goes out there and blows the doors off anybody and everybody? To me, I want to see if he can handle that extra furlong, because let's just use a horse like Roy H., who's not in this race. You get him out to 7 or any kind of those distances, that's when he kind of loses a little bit of his luster. At 6 furlongs, though, he's an animal. This horse, I wonder if he fits that same sort of mold.
Let's see the Timeform US pace projector. It is a red bar scenario, not surprisingly, which indicates a fast pace. We see Matoli sitting second off of Promises Fulfilled, and Promises Fulfilled had a really productive 3-year-old campaign for Dale Romans. Just consider, he won the Fountain of Youth, and they had him on the Derby Trail, despite those distances being way too far for him. But after being kicked in the head in the Florida Derby and the Kentucky Derby, he responded with 3 consecutive graded wins, and he was the pace setter against older horses in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Now, I questioned Dale Romans running him in the Dubai Golden Shaheen off of the long layoff. That just happened to be a tough spot. And when Promises Fulfilled didn't break, he ended up hemmed in behind horses, and that's not the trip that Promises Fulfilled needs to win. He needs this kind of trip, and if he breaks, he's probably going to get it.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to just draw a line through the Golden Shaheen and look at this and say, you know what, he's back to Churchill Downs. To me, this distance is better than the 6 furlongs. I know he's done good things at 3/4 in the past. I always have thought of him as a 7/8, one-turn miler type. I think this is what he wants to do. And if he's able to make the front, this is going to be one of those interesting situations where if Matoli has to look at a good horse like Promises Fulfilled, and even if he puts him away, not only do you need to deal with the additional distance, but now you've got all these other nice horses that are stalkers sitting, breathing down your neck.
The number 4, Bobby's Wicked One, brings a 3-race win streak into the Churchill Downs Stakes, but all of those races came in gate-to-wire fashion, and as you see on the pace projector, the number 4 is expected to be 3rd after the first quarter of a mile. Now, he beat 6 of these common foes in the Commonwealth. We'll be talking a lot about the Commonwealth. A, I thought he was conceded the lead that day. I really don't understand why the other pace horse, Recruiting Ready, did not go for the lead. B, it looked like Speed just did well overall at Keeneland. So he ran 100 buyer. I've always been a fan of this horse. I've always liked this horse, but I think he was flattered by the track and race dynamics.
I think he had everything go his way that day, like you laid out. Now, he is the kind of horse that his last 3 wins have all been gate to wire fashion. He did win from off the pace in his career debut, though, so perhaps there's a situation where if the other horses go, he can sit and still be as effective. There's just a part of me that says, look, he's going to be one of those fascinating horses. You're going to have a number of people like myself that say, prove it to me one more time. You're going to have a number of people that say he is the horse to beat right now because he's in great form, and you're still going to get a very nice price.
The number one Do Share would really appreciate if this time form U.S. pace projector is correct. He needs a fast pace to run at, and Connections have done a really good job. They bought this horse at public auction for $40,000 last year, and Michael Makers turned him into a graded stakes winner. Now, I thought he got a hot pace. Timeform US disagrees. They color-coded the Tom Fool handicap blue. Three horses were battling it out for the lead. Dushare did well enough to stay within range, and then once he got to the outside, he swamped him with a 4-wide bid. 105 Beyer speed figure fits with these horses. He's going to get another fast pace scenario, but do you think his kick is slightly better at 6 than at 7?
Yeah, absolutely. And take a look at his career record at 7/8 of a mile. He's 1 for 7. He's one of those horses I think would appreciate a hot pace and a slightly shorter distance. And the other thing is, that race was just so much better than anything he had ever done in his career, and he had everything go his way. To me, it kind of feels like last time was probably the time. I'm not throwing him out from underneath, but as far as a win contender, I think he's going to have a much tougher go this time.
I think one of the strongest contenders in this race is the 2 Limousine Liberal. He's won this race 2 years in a row. Every year, Ben Colebrook uses a good effort in the Commonwealth as a springboard to a win in the Churchill Downs Stakes, and I thought this horse ran great last time out in the Commonwealth. We mentioned that track was speed-friendly. There was no pace in the race. Limousine Liberal was in and among horses. He was forced to go extremely wide turning into the stretch, and he was still trying hard all the way down to the wire. This horse is 6 for 9 at Churchill Downs. You have to respect him.
Yeah, and like you say, this is a pattern. We've seen this in the past, not just once, but twice over in the past 2 years, where they have used that run at Keeneland as the prep and the springboard to this race here, and now especially as a grade 1. You have to think he is ready to go. Now, look, the inside draw may not be ideal for him, but he might work out a beautiful position because you're going to have those other speeds go. He can sit just in behind. If it's wet, it doesn't matter. Actually, if it's wet, it's even better for him. He's 3 for 3. But if it's dry, it doesn't matter either. He's just an honest horse. I picked him second.
Majestic Dunhill is a stakes winner on turf and dirt. We have a formulator fact for his trainer, George Weaver. Over the past 3 years, with older dirt sprinters coming second off the layoff, 35% winners, 12 of 17 on the board, 358 ROI, tale of 2 pace scenarios in his last 2 races. In the General George, I know uncontested went gate to wire, but he just blitzed that field on the lead and went fast. All the pace pressers were gasping for air, turning for home. Majestic Dunhill got the trip and the setup, and he came running for second. In the Commonwealth, he just had no pace to run at. I like what Irad did. He tried to save as much ground as possible. He eased out, but he really had no chance with that scenario. I think he's something in the middle between those 2 races, and I'm not sure it's good enough to win, but I would use him underneath.
No, I agree 100%. I think he is somewhere between the Commonwealth and the General George. He should get another good pace situation here. A wet track won't bother him. He's 1 for 1 over it thus far. I agree. I don't know that an in-between effort's good enough to win, but perhaps underneath.
Wild Shot made his name by winning the Grade 3 Pat Day Mile over this surface over a wet track. He has not run very well since that race, and he's only raced sparingly for Rusty Arnold. He ran on the Commonwealth undercard in his first start this year, and I couldn't find an excuse, Matt. He was chasing the pace on the outside, and he tired very badly. Now, maybe he needed the race, but doesn't he just have to do a heck of a lot better to win this one?
I mean, realistically, what's the only race on his page that makes him remotely competitive? It's the Pat Day Mile from 2017 that was over a wet, fast track. I suppose if he can get back to that effort, maybe he can get a piece of this thing. The form that he's in right now, he's very difficult to recommend, but it is worth noting. He has never been out of the exacta in 4 lifetime starts at Churchill Downs.
Keeneland graduate Warriors Club finished second in this race last year behind Limousine Liberal, and it looks like he's coming into this race in similarly good form. His first start of the year was just at a distance that was a little bit too far for him. He's not a 2-turn horse, and they ran him a mile at Oaklawn. Last time out in the Commonwealth, he was up close to the pace where you wanted to be, and he just couldn't run with Bobby's Wicked One at the end. I think he is a solid horse that occasionally pops a triple-digit Beyer speed figure, but often settles for minor awards, and maybe that's where he's best played here.
kind of the way that I'm looking at him. I also really liked the turn back for him in that Commonwealth, turning back from 2 turns to the 1 turn 7/8. And really, if you believe that the track was a little bit speed friendly and the pace was moderate like Timeform does, then he probably doesn't have much of an excuse for that effort. Did he just get turned away by a better horse? Who knows? You're right. He's one that can occasionally get involved at a decent number.
Let's talk about one of the main contenders in this race. Outside post for Whitmore, who has earned triple-digit Beyer speed figures in 8 out of his last 10 races. I thought he ran deceptively well in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He broke slowly. He spotted that field about 2.5 lengths. He was stuck down inside, and he ran on to be second. He beat a couple of useful horses in the Hot Springs in his seasonal debut, and then in the Count Fleet, we talked about it. He had to be taken out of his element to be the one chasing Mitole. We know he is more comfortable from a little bit further off the pace. There'll be other horses pushing Mitole in here. I think Whitmore's a very dangerous contender. He's logical on paper. He's only banked $2.5 million in his career.
Yeah, he's very likable, blue collar. He's going to show up and give you basically a triple-digit Beyer. You can almost bank on it here. The outside draw doesn't really bother me here. There should be plenty of speed in front of him, which, like you say, that's the great equalizer for that Count Fleet. Whereas instead of being the one chasing and putting pressure on Mitole, now he can let someone else do that and come with his bid. He's run well at Churchill in the past. Wouldn't argue with anyone that liked him.
Before we get to our top selections, we'll discuss a couple of long shots. Still Having Fun took advantage of a pace meltdown to win the Woody Stevens back in 2018. Has not won since. Got a very good trip when he was third in the Malibu. Kent DeZormo wisely saving ground every step of the way. Last time out in the Commonwealth, again, you can forgive that effort because there was no pace, but I was disappointed with his run in the General George. I wonder if he has already hit his peak.
Yeah, unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like he's improved much at the end of his 3-year-old form and early here as a 4-year-old. You're right, though. That General George, that's the one that sticks out to me. I thought he should have done better. The
likable Uno Masmodello has won his last 7 races against non-graded stakes competition. He's running in a grade 1 here, and I just wonder if maybe these horses are a little better than he is.
That's the way it seems right now. He's one of those horses that, again, when he is put against horses that he fits with, he acquits himself very nicely. When he's thrown to the wolves, I just don't think he quite cuts it.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Churchill Downs Stakes. You're a huge fan of the number 9 Uncontested, and why not? He came back absolutely loaded for bear off a layoff. 2 gigantic victories in Laurel, including the General George at 7 furlongs. My question for you is, the Commonwealth was a disappointing effort. Are you worried that he just didn't seem to show any speed that day? Or are you willing to say, listen, he didn't run well at Keeneland in his prior start, maybe didn't like the surface?
Well, I have to be honest, it is one of those things where I said, if I liked him in the Commonwealth and I was willing to take 7-2 on him in a field like that against good horses, I kind of would feel crazy if I let him go here at 10 or 12-1. But to your point, I have to be honest, I don't really know what happened, because when I saw them break and I saw him break about 7th in a field of a 12, I said, well, this is no good. He's not going to be able to make up any ground here. And he never really did any running whatsoever. I'm going to basically just throw it out and hope that it was sort of an anomaly and get back to the General George or that run 3 starts back where he was up there forwardly placed. He has won from slightly off of it in the past. He's got a win at Churchill. This distance to me is right in his wheelhouse. I still maintain if he runs back to the General George, I think he's got a big chance.
Are you concerned that he is a need the lead type? Because it is unlikely he'll make the lead with Mitole breaking directly inside, and of course the fast promise is fulfilled also inside. Or do you think, listen, Johnny V can work out a trip where this horse is tracking 3rd on the outside and could be in a great spot when the real running begins?
I have to be honest. If I were John Velasquez and the connections, I would be looking at it saying, you're going to follow Mitole. When Mitole goes, you just park right off him because he's drawn just to the inside. And you know what? If Mitole's out there and somebody else wants to cook his goose early on, maybe you can get first run on both of them. Maybe you can box in a horse like Limousine Liberal or anyone else that should sit that pocket. I'd rather you be out in the clear, but right there, because I don't think he is the kind of horse that can come from 6 out of it and make that move. I think you want to use your speed as your asset and take advantage of a horse that, you know what, Mitole's getting the acid test here.
Give me some numbers.
In this spot, I'm going to go 9-2-6-8.
I think Mitole's going to pass the test here. I think he is going to sit off promises fulfilled. I think he's going to attack, and I think he will have enough. I've been impressed visually. Now he's going to have to do it against a faster pace scenario, and because there are the question marks with 7 furlongs, I would have to spread in multiple race wagers. So I'm going to be using Mitole, I'm going to be using the 1 Do Share, the 6 Promises Fulfilled, and the 12 Whitmore. 8-1-6-12 for me in the Grade 1 Churchill Downs. Matt going for value with the 9 uncontested. It is Kentucky Derby Saturday, race number 8. The Churchill Downs Stakes has an approximate post of 2:45 Eastern. Best of luck.